In my reading of Aaron Paquette's novel Lightfinder, I draw on a schema created by Joseph Campbell, who was born in 1904 and died in 1987, who is an expert on comparative mythology. One of the most famous ideas he proposed was the idea of the monomyth, the idea that all myths are variations on one great story. I studied the monomyth while in one of my graduate classes with Dr. Mary Ann Gillies, and I credit her with introducing me to these ideas. In this graphic, you can see the stages of what Campbell called a hero's journey that starts with the call to adventure, that proceeds to the refusal of the call, to supernatural aid through several stages such as crossing the first threshold, the road of trials, the meeting with the goddess, and so on, through the apotheosis, the ultimate boon, and until the rescue from without and the freedom to live. I argue that Aisling Cardinal, the protagonist and heroine of Lightfinder, even though she is an unconventional hero, 15 years old, female, takes on a hero's journey of her own. In fact, when Aisling's journey differs at times from the conventional hero's journey, the result is an opportunity to examine Aisling's Cree values and culture. The departures the novel takes from Campbell's schema serves to energize the existing framework while depicting Aisling's heritage and the importance of storytelling and song in her family. Campbell explains that the first stage of the hero's journey is the call to adventure, that moment at the beginning of a quest, when all seems normal, completely typical, when suddenly the hero receives information that will alter his way of life. However, Aisling's situation isn't exactly normal, unless normal means living as a 15-year-old with an absent parent, ostensibly alone. Upon arriving home after her father's death, Aisling experiences the first otherworldly call, which she later learns is from Mother Earth. She closed her eyes and immediately the dream took her. Save me. What does Aisling do? See stage 2 of Campbell's schema, refusal of the call. Confused, Aisling does not accept this first call to action. However, feeling duty to her grandmother, she eventually accepts the call of the journey to look for her brother who's gone missing. Campbell explains once the call is answered, the first encounter of the hero journey is with a protective figure, often a little old crone or old man, sometimes referred to as a supernatural aid. In this case, Aisling's Kukum. Kukum, her grandmother, has been Aisling's guide since long before this journey. Even as a child suffering from sleepwalking and night terrors, her grandmother guided her back to peace. Though Campbell explains that the guide typically provides the adventurer with amulets against the dragon forces he is about to pass, the talisman Kukum shares with Aisling is the teen's own power. By helping Aisling learn how to tap into her power to see the earth light, the blood of our mother, Kukum is providing her with a powerful inherited strength. Though Aisling agrees to the journey out of obedience to her elder, once Kukum has helped Aisling find her strength, she's more fully invested in the journey and ready for the next stage, the crossing of the first threshold. For Aisling, this is when she hears one of several oral stories from her Kukum. Kukum shares the story the way she has always done, by singing. While oral storytelling is an important aspect to many Indigenous cultures, Aisling's family also incorporates their love of music into this tradition. Kukum's musical approach to telling the creation story is especially engaging to Aisling, as singing is a bond she and Kukum have shared since she was small. In an interview in early 2015, author Aaron Paquette explains that the tale Kukum tells is one of these stories that we hear growing up about ravens stealing the sun and the moon. The reader is invited to hear the story along with Aisling, but with no further explanation than the song itself. Paquette goes on to explain that the creation story is meant for a specific audience as an illusion, so if you're Cree and you're raised like that, you'll automatically get those cultural markers. Aisling is clearly intrigued by the story and has no need for further explanation, even though we as readers might. Once Aisling is fully entrenched in her journey, her story takes a departure from the typical chronology of the hero's journey, toggling the next 3 steps. They happen within close sequence of one another, and the departure from the framework is necessary for Aisling to mature and further realize the purpose of her journey. While Campbell's framework calls for the next steps to be the road of trials, the meeting with the goddess, and woman as temptress, Paquette's chronology is different. The next event in Aisling's journey is actually the meeting with the goddess, where Aisling reaches what Campbell would call the central point of the cosmos in the tabernacle of the temple, and what in Lightfinder is the encounter with Mother Earth. Aisling enters into a dialogue with her in the dreamland, with this goddess figure gently guiding Aisling to her. When sharing this dream with her family, Aisling admits that she's been unknowingly communicating with Mother Earth in her dreams since a few days before her dad died. This meeting with the goddess firmly cements Aisling in a role of responsibility, since she now has a personal connection with and obligation to Mother Earth. Furthermore, Aisling has a permanent physical mark of her meeting with the goddess that marks her for others to find. From both her temples, glowing in the pre-dawn light like soft, warm currents of energy, flowed pure white hair. This mark will allow the next step of the journey for Aisling, as others may now recognize her. Once Aisling has accepted her journey and is at the point of no return, she reaches the road of trials in her initiation. She now moves in a dream landscape of curiously fluid, ambiguous forms where she must survive a succession of trials. One of the trials Aisling faces, a challenge that she fails, is her first encounter with a walking, talking pile of bracken, grass, moss, and mud balanced on two poles, head hunched down below the shoulders. Though she's initially afraid of him, Aisling soon learns that this is Wakaitau, Walking Man, one of the ancient spirits of the land. In this stage of the journey, often the hero fails the test, only to emerge stronger for it and continue the journey. Aisling utterly fails this test of her manners when she refuses a gift Walking Man offers her. Granted, she's at the start of her journey and may be overwhelmed, especially as Walking Man has vowed to harm her brother. However, Aisling's guide and elder soon corrects her. Though Kukum has a familial instinct to correct Aisling's behavior, she's also acting as a guide, assuring Aisling that Walking Man can be trusted and that she must behave courteously and according to her custom and culture even in this strange new world. Along with the trials, which encourage Aisling to realize the immaturity of her ways, she reaches another obstacle in her journey, in the stage of Woman is the Temptress. Gillies explains that there may or may not be an actual woman, but it does refer to pleasures that may deter the hero from their path. While Aisling has two potential suitors, she clearly prefers Matari. This stage usually serves as a distraction to the hero, and it does so for Aisling, as she soon burned with shame at her unexpected impulse to kiss him, and she's preoccupied with her humiliation rather than the goal of her journey. This temptation also serves as another trial, as Aisling avoids both Matari and Jake, the situation too awkward for her to talk to either of them. Matari is not purely a temptation either, as they're on the same journey with a common purpose. But before she brings herself to try and make amends, she's thrust into the next stage, atonement with the Father. In this stage, the hero confronts what holds the ultimate power in their life, a person, an idea, a thing, possibly a father figure, but for Aisling, her actual dead father. Though his human body expired in the accident that set her on her journey, she finds that the formidable grizzly that saves her from her attack is actually her father, alive and in the form of a bear. This twist gives Aisling a chance to reconnect with her father. Just as she is overwhelmed by the reappearance of her dad and her complicated relationships with both boys, Aisling plummets into the next stage of the hero's journey, as she's gravely ill from an infected wound. This threat to Aisling is the apotheosis, which is that moment when the hero transcends from this world to the next. At that moment of apotheosis, when the hero dies to the ordinary world, this provides a momentary space of peace that allows them to pierce the illusions of the world to see its truth. Though Aisling does not die in either world, she is gravely ill in both. While her aunt and Kukum try to heal her in one world, Matari and another family friend, Inkata, guide her in the other. This twist on the hero's journey draws on Cree culture for a means of cleansing to treat Aisling, who is comforted by the familiar scent of smudge in the air and of the medicines, the herbs and plants of the sweat. As Aisling tries to settle in, the sounds of music take over, another appropriate therapy for her. The music creates unity and power within the group, a further antidote to Aisling's illness. At this stage, apotheosis, the hero sees the reality of the world. For Aisling, this means a new sense of appreciation and maturity. She has a newfound focus on her brother Eric as she sees a vision of him while she heals. Though at the start of the novel, she's depicted as a responsible young woman, trusted to live alone while her father is at work, she's frequently reacted to stress, admittedly extreme stress, with outbursts and immature reactions. But this new determination gives her the strength to handle further blows, including the loss of her father for a second time as he fades away from his bear totem. She also comes to terms with a profound physical change when she awakes to discover that she now has a tree foot and Kukum sacrificed her own arm in order to provide a leg for Aisling, a gesture that clearly demonstrates their bond and willingness to help each other at any cost. The earthly material of the new leg, rather than being human flesh and blood, is the result of Kukum's power to make things grow. Just as Kukum has the power to grow from the earth, so can she encourage Aisling's growth. Aisling's newfound confidence and improved ease of handling tough situations is clear as she reaches the climax of the story, or the ultimate boon, which is the achievement of the true goal, the object of the journey. As Aisling and her comrades approach the gateway and she receives threats, she handles them coolly rather than with angry outbursts. Further down the path, within Raven's lair, lies the true objective of her journey. Though it was originally to save Eric, once Aisling realizes her power, she realizes her goal is to save the world. It is achieved momentarily, but not entirely, because the world is still in danger after the immediate crisis is resolved. The journey has not been an easy one for Aisling, and it's further complicated when she witnesses what she believes is her brother's death, when his heart is pulled out through his body. Despite her reluctance, Aisling must return to her own world, and as such, rescue from without is required. Just as the hero needed a guide or mentor on the journey towards the goal, they often need one on the journey home, according to Gillies. As Kukum, ever the loving and generous matriarch, died to save Eric, Aisling is tragically without her guide. However, she still has the support of her brother, her aunt, and Matari, who never lets Aisling out of his sight for long. As well, Aisling is now more confident and capable. Not only does she have control over her own path, she is now in a position to help others. The final stage of the hero's journey is usually freedom to live, but Aisling has already acknowledged the fact that she still has work to do and her Kukum's shoes to fill. She has a responsibility to and a connection with Mother Earth, and until the Earth has started to heal, she's not free to live her own life. Aisling's journey is not yet done. The story of Lightfinder will continue as a trilogy, and Paquette has promised more suspense and adventure, hinting that everyone suffers. While the focus of Lightfinder is the entwined stories of siblings Eric and Aisling on their respective journeys, there's another critical theme woven into the story. From the first page of the novel, there's a clear focus on family and kinship. Although several key characters in the novel are actually related, kinship does not necessarily denote a blood relationship. In discussing Indigenous literatures as a method of cultural survival, Daniel Heath Justice explains that kinship is best thought of as a verb rather than a noun, because kinship, in most Indigenous contexts, is something that's done more than something that simply is. In the novel, kinship is a bond that's performed. Aisling has a closer connection to her Kukum than to other family members, as they have shared a bond over singing and later over their powers. Likewise, Aunt Martha and Kukum protect Eric and Aisling and support them however possible. This kinship is also extended to Matari and Inkata, each of whom describes his bond to Aisling's family, relationships that grow out of reciprocity. That the inclusive bond of kinship is extended to outsiders shows that family need not be blood. Indeed, it need not even be human, as demonstrated by the kinship that develops between Aisling and Mother Earth. When Mother Earth asks for her help, she's taking from Aisling's power. In return, she is taking care of Aisling and taking on an elder role of sorts with her, protecting and guiding her. Though Lightfinder takes departures from the traditional structure of the hero's journey, it remains a true monomyth. For Campbell explains that myths have been the living inspiration of whatever else may have appeared out of the activities of the human body and mind, including a seemingly typical girl in her teens. The activities portrayed in Lightfinder broadly include self-doubt and confidence, the importance of kinship, and the value of respecting Mother Earth. On a more focused examination, the twists on the hero's journey demonstrate Aisling's Cree culture and emphasize her family traditions, which help depict a fuller picture of her character, in ways that readers may be able to more fully connect with and appreciate. Paquette does not stop to take opportunities to showcase Cree traditions. Rather, they're interwoven frequently and naturally into the text. Paquette's approach serves not only to invigorate the typical hero's journey, but also to remind readers of the power of young women, in particular, an Indigenous young woman. As Paquette explained, I think that Indigenous kids deserve something that gives them a reason to hope, and Aisling's journey does just that.